Greetings, brethren, it's your beer-tasting donkey man of repute, here to talk about something that is... Honestly, I don't know if this exists outside of Germany, but it is a thing in Germany, and I thought it was worth talking about it, but I kind of avoided it until now because, well, it's not going to be entirely pleasant for me. So I'm here to talk to you about cheap beer, and this is going to be a double feature, because cheap beer is kind of a spectrum. So beer in general is a lot cheaper in Germany than it is in other countries. A good quality beer will be somewhere around 80 to 90 cents to €1.20, and that price range is basically 80 cents to €1. That's around a bottle of local beer, right? So, and that's also why local beer is so popular, because it's good quality beer usually, but because there's no it doesn't have to be delivered from across the country. You know, we barely need any trucks or anything like that. The logistics price of it just drops, and that makes it cheaper for the locals. The €1.20, that's generally then the sort of high quality beers of great repute that you get from all across Germany. And they're usually from further away. Where I live, there's a lot of them from Bavaria. They're in that upper price category, and also something like Flensburger, because it's so far up north, that'll also be a little bit more expensive. Then below that, the sort of 50 to 70 cents range, that is cheap beer. And something like Paderborner falls into that category. Now, this category isn't awful beer. This is still very much drinkable, but it's not exceptional. And the reason this is cheap is because usually there's some kind of... either there are corners being cut in the production, or the beer is just of a lesser quality, something like that. It's still not awful, but it's still way better than, you know, something like Budweiser. So let's start off with Paderborner. In this case, the contestant for the cheap beer. I'm also not sure why I got a can. I could have gotten this in a bottle from the place that I got it. I guess that's how little I respect it, that I just got the can kind of automatically, but we'll pour it anyway. It wasn't poured particularly well, so I can't finish it in one go. We'll have to let it settle a little bit. Also, it's a can, so pouring is not nearly as satisfying as it is from a bottle, but I'll just keep topping it off until it's done. And I'll talk a little bit more about why these kind of beers, or what's so special about these kinds of beers. So that it can also be, for example, especially when it comes to brewing lagers. I talked about this actually with someone on Twitter the other day, just some random person, that ales, and especially something like an IPA, part of the reason why they were so popular in the craft beer movement is because the making of them is actually quite easy and not very expensive, because they can be brewed at room temperature. And I said before in the German Beer Week videos, which shall be linked up here, that a lager, Pilsner, pale lagers, Märzen, Zwickel, and so on and so forth, because of the bottom fermentation yeast, they need to be chilled. So you need to be able to have a brewing vat that can be refrigerated. And that is expensive. That is an expensive piece of kit that you don't need if you just use a top fermentation. And so, for these kind of companies to save money, they sometimes do cut some corners, and some of them will also use varying ingredients, because usually private breweries and traditional breweries are very, very specific about the stuff they use and their recipes, and they never waver from them, even when the ingredients are potentially more expensive for a while. And some of these companies will change their recipe if they can save money that way. And that also means that the way the beer tastes can change over time. I don't know about Paderborner because I don't really drink it that often. Oettinger would be the cheap beer that I'm familiar with. And I can absolutely tell you that the taste of Oettinger has changed over the years. So that would be one of those examples. So let's have a go of Paderborner. Yeah, I don't like that very much. Yeah, so there's definitely a very malty taste coming through. It really cuts. It's a pilsner, so it's a little bit higher on the bitterness, and does have a sort of a savory note to it, and a little bit more sweet maybe than some other more tart lagers and other beers. But this one, there's a real maltiness that cuts through the bitterness, and it just makes it kind of unpleasant in a way. It is certainly drinkable, but yeah, it's not amazing. I would probably. I'm gonna go quicker because, as I said, it's a double feature, so I have another beer sitting here. Um, I would probably give this a. Oh dear, what would I give this? I don't want to be. Would I drink this rather than Beck's? Yeah, I would actually. So I think I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 10. I think it's serviceable. If you're looking for a drinking beer and you're not too worried about rich flavor profiles and that sort of thing, I think this is totally acceptable. But definitely expect this to not be as good as a much higher quality beer would be. So now, however, we come to the lowest of the low. This is the Bum's Bliss, the Hobo's Hops, the the Tramp's Tasties, the Vagrant's Vapors. I don't know. It's awful. And if you thought beer in a can was a sin, which I kind of do, how about beer in a plastic bottle? That's right. This is the absolute cheapest kind of beer that you can get in Germany. A bottle of this, I bought this bottle, so I know, runs you 30 cents. That is in American money something like 45 cents, maybe something like that. I don't even think it's 50 cents. It's it can't get cheaper. I don't know if you know this, but you have to pay extra for bottles, and you get that money back if you bring those bottles back when they're empty to the shop. It's kind of like a sort of a system that you return your bottles. It's just one of the weird things we do in Germany. And for plastic bottles that have this symbol right here, you can see it there. That amount is 25 cents. So this beer only just costs more than the additional charge you pay for the bottle that you get then back when you return the bottle. Yeah, it's really, really cheap. And I'm not looking forward to this because, I mean, it's a plastic bottle with a twist top. It's the saddest thing I can imagine. Oh my god, that smells horrific. Well, let's see if we can at least turn this into some ASMR. Doesn't even get a particularly impressive crown. Color-wise, it's very pilsnery. I'm not offended by the color or anything, but the smell really is awful. Well, but I guess it's brewed by purity law, whatever that means in this particular case. A plastic bottle is really just that is heresy. But let's have a go. I've not ever tried this because the bottle itself is just too much heresy for me usually. But here we go. It's whatever I have to do for this channel, I suppose. Oh, that is disgusting. Oh my god. That is so bad. Wow. Ah. There are a lot of things going on and none of them are pleasant. Is this supposed to be a Pilsner? It is. Oh, wow. Okay. So there's not a lot of Pilsneriness going on, but there's so many other weird things going on there that make it horrific. It has a really metallic taste to it as well, which is just the worst. Um, it's kind of low on the bitterness, but it also just doesn't have a real flavor profile. It's just so many unpleasant things. That metallic taste really lingers as well. And there's something almost like stale meat flavored to it. It's just there's so many things going on there that I just don't want to have in a beer. Absolutely gross. I suppose if this is all you can afford, you know, I suppose it's beer-ish, but it is not. It is not. I'm not going to finish it anyway. That's terrible. Yeah, I was right to avoid Schloss Pilsner till now because it is horrific. Honestly, you know what? I'm gonna have another sip of the Paderborner just to get rid of the terrible taste. 3 out of 10 was correct for this one because it is just so much more pleasant than the really cheap one. So yeah, the really cheap one, 0 out of 10. Ooh, I mean this is it more offensive than Heineken? Should I give it 0.5? I guess so. It is. I guess it's something worth talking about because it is actually really bad. Yeah, so I guess it's 0.5. It's slightly better than Heineken, just on the basis that I can actually use this as a talking point. But yeah, what a horrible beer. Awful. Just I will definitely say this. If you're a German, you should probably try this just to sate your curiosity because it's as bad as you think and probably worse. And if you're not a German, please never drink this. This is. I mean, if you come here to visit, spend your time drinking good beers. I have a library of them. Like all the ones with the happy donkey faces are pretty decent. So get any of them. Not this, because this is not. It's just not very good, and really not worth it. But I thought it was an interesting sort of thing about German beer culture that we have these cheap and ultra cheap beers, despite beer already being pretty cheap, that it was worth at least showcasing them. Not gonna finish them though, because they're not very nice. Especially that really cheap one. Ooh, I think if I drank all of that, I might be sick. So yeah. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and please come back on another day for another beer. Oh, and I should also say these are going to be the only cheap and ultra cheap beers on the channel because I'm not going to waste time with them. They're all terrible. So yeah, there you go. Take care, guys.